Hello everyone and welcome to another Hasselblad webinar, and we're very excited today to welcome in Clive Arrowsmith. How are you doing, Clive?
I'm doing okay. I seem to have switched to the normal camera instead of the webinar camera on the desktop, so I don't know how to get back to it. This is like a very dark view and very close. It's not.
Okay, that's all good. We can still see you, so that's the best thing. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So just going to go through the agenda for today's talk. We're going to look at some of Clive's favourite and iconic shoots and shots, and Clive's going to tell us some great, interesting stories associated with them. We estimate this to be about 50 minutes, give or take, and then hopefully have some time at the end for Clive to answer some questions. Also, just to let everyone know that we're recording today's webinar, so if you want to watch it back at all, it'll be on the Hasselblad YouTube channel within a few hours of the webinar. And any of the previous webinars from Hasselblad that you may have missed in the previous few weeks, they're all on there as well. So if you like what you see today and you're joining us for the first time, please look back on there. So Clive, yeah, how's it been? How's life been with the recent lockdown and that?
Well, it's been busy because I've been working on 2 books, and I was supposed to go to Vietnam, as I said, to do a fashion and beauty shoot. But the thing is that obviously we can't go anywhere. So I've been working with Barenboim, who was the ex-editor of Vogue, on 2 books. And also, you know, I have galleries in Sweden and the Fotografiska, and I have a gallery in Palm Beach, and there's some pictures of mine at the National Portrait Gallery. So you know, I've got so much to do, and obviously I've been scanning through all my stuff for all these books, and generally staying in very carefully, and not going out. If I go out, to go out with a mask and gloves on, because I have a bit of a lung problem. So really, I've just been every day going through massive amount of pictures for all these books that I shot since 1970 for Vogue, and then Harper's, and then Pirelli, and all these different books. And lots of people, you know, contact me to buy pictures online from me, from my agent, Eugenie. And so that's what I've been doing. I mean, actually, it's been more busy than ever. And I quite like the fact that the phone wasn't ringing all the time, so that I started, you know, cleaning something up, because some of the transparencies that Vogue had, they had not been well looked after, and they were covered in dust and scratches. And that's one of the great things about Photoshop, is you can go in minusculely. And I like to do everything myself, being a painter, so that I wanted to actually do everything myself, so I could retouch and clean all the bits up. So that takes a lot of time. I mean, each transparency would take about half a day or something like that, you know.
Okay, because you mentioned painting, so we've got a little slide here just to introduce some of your biography. And so you started as a painter originally.
Yes, yeah.
So do you think that was a good step to becoming a photographer?
I was never an assistant, you see. Everything that I learned in painting for 5 years at art school, and when I was in Italy studying the light of Caravaggio and Leonardo da Vinci, which was my idols, that was the way that I learned about light and dark, you know, light and shade, one color against another, one tone against another. Because in those days in art school in 1969, I went to an art school in North Wales, then I got a scholarship to Liverpool, not to Liverpool, to Kingston. And I was there I didn't want to leave, actually, because I was a painter and I didn't think I'd get any work. So I tried to stay in art school. I won a few bursaries and stayed for another 6 months. So and I was never an assistant. So when lighting, and they asked me to do a shoot with a camera I borrowed when I was an art director in television. Well, they had a load of cameras there, and I was the art director of Ready Steady Go. I took some pictures, and because of the lighting I used, I just copied, you know, painting lighting, because I didn't know about photography lighting, and I thought it was a minor form. So I actually just copied it, and everybody said, "Oh, this is amazing!" And I've just carried on in that way, just learning as I fell over and got up again, you know.
Okay, and so as you say, you then got into the photography from that, through the sort of the working on the TV. And how did you get into the current circle with, like, sort of doing fashion and sort of celebrity and things like that?
Well, because I did the drawings for 2001, the film, for a magazine called Town, when I was still an illustrator and painter. And then late afterwards, I believe that then Kubrick used them in the film without saying anything to me anyway. So there's some Italian people who were Kubrick fans told me. And then there was a Royal College of Art fashion show, and the photographer couldn't go. And so I said, oh, I've got a camera, I'll go. And because I was getting into photography, developing my own things in the television, but they had massive amounts of dark rooms and things, and I used them all the time. So that's what happened. And they got excited about them. They thought they were good. I think I shot them on a sort of 14mm wide angle, and they all looked very arty and very mad. So then they gave me another job, and then a friend of mine said to me, "Have you seen this camera, the Hasselblad?" I said, "Oh, it sounds like a Danish open sandwich." Yes, it did. So they showed it me, this guy in the camera shop, and he had a second-hand one. And I got a friend of mine gave me the signed as hire purchase, and I bought my one. And then the first shot I took of a portrait of Dame Sybil Thorndike for the Observer, I developed it all night in about 20 boxes of paper until I eventually got this picture. And the quality of it, I thought, it takes me a month to do a painting, at least of this trompe l'oeil, very carefully. But this camera captures the pores in the skin, the eyelashes, the veins in the eyes, and that, I'm afraid I became a convert straight away. You know, and that's what happened. But then I went on and on from doing. Then Grace Coddington and Barney Wan from Vogue. I did some pictures. Wayne Sleep, the dancer, with my infant son, flying through the air. Because I used to photograph in the ballet and things like that. I always liked that elegance. And then they saw them, they came to the house, and then the next day they said, the editor of Vogue said, "We want you to come and discuss your career with Vogue." So I went in, and then as soon as I was there, they gave me jobs to do. And of course, the styling and the quality and the clothes and the models, I mean, were just things you could never afford if you were starting off. I mean, a model would work for Vogue, you know, for 15 quid a day or something like that. Anyway, that's what they paid me a day, I think, in the starting. And they got stylists like Grace Coddington with the clothes from Paris. And I loved fashion in the theatre, and all my paintings were like that. And so that's what happened. I mean, then I said one day on some program, TV program, they're saying, some radio guy on radio, he said to me, your pictures are so wonderful. And I said, well, it's not me really. They've got great studios at Vogue. They've got fantastic models at Vogue. They've got a great stylist called Grace Coddington, and all the equipment is there. And I just go there and light it and take the picture. Really, it's all up to them. They do it all. I'm just a copying device, as I said. And so the next day I was hauled into the editor's office saying, "Clive, everybody works at Vogue and everybody works at this, but your pictures are remarkable." So she sent me off to American Vogue to meet Alexander Lieberman. That's in 1970. I'd done the first pictures with Kansai Yamamoto. I think one of them is on here, the Japanese design. And who's still my friend, and unfortunately has got leukemia at the moment in Tokyo. So anyway, once I did those, and it just spiraled on and on and on, and I just had to learn as I went along. And some of the pictures you see have got this glowing light around them, and there wasn't any Photoshop. I must say all the things were done on film. And the thing is that I put some light behind the white background paper, put it further away, and covered it in gauze and a colored gel. And then I had a long distance studio so that the paper would be out of focus and you wouldn't get the grain in the paper, and it gave a glow around it. And so the Japanese people were sending me messages, "That's a glow, you see, there it is." Yeah. And "What do you get, Mr. Arrows? How you get the glow?" And they thought it was all painted. I said, no, it's just I use different gels. And this picture of the wonderful Donna Mitchell for the Paris collections, which was, I'd hardly been working for them about 6 months, and they said, "Oh, you're doing the Paris collection." And we all went, you know, I thought, oh my God, how am I going to handle all this? So anyway, Donna came, and I think in another previous talk, I mentioned that Donna Mitchell, she moved very liquidly, and like you know, and it taught me so much about models moving in space. And therefore, I mostly used girls who'd been dancers and had the natural elegance. When they jumped, they didn't jump with their faces, they jumped with an expression. You could say, "There's your point, look, eyes over there when you jump there." And they say, "No, another one, can you jump? Look at me, another one." So the thing is, you could direct them, and you could choreograph them. And that's which I've always done. I mean, with their cooperation, I haven't forced them to do anything. They delighted. And of course, we had a Polaroid back. And so with the Polaroid back, we go all squinting around the window, trying to see that, not on a screen like we can now with the new, what's the number of the Hasselblad I just shot on?
The X1D.
The X1D,
yeah, both X60 and X1D, yeah.
Yeah, the big, you know, that one. The quality of it is just extraordinary. I just shot the beauty papers, which is in this series of pictures, I think, 8 months ago. Remarkable. Yeah. See, the thing is, it's just a question that I want as much information so I can get at, so I can slightly change dark against light, light against dark, having a Wacom pad and a pen. I can then darken and bring things up and down. I don't over retouch things, but if there's a sort of a terrible scar or a mark on the plastic, I would then just erase it away with Photoshop, because I've been trained as a painter. So the Wacom pad just came to me like a breath of fresh air, you know.
We've had our first question actually, Clive, from Peter. He's asking if you still paint. Do you still paint as a hobby? Or?
No, I don't paint, because actually Willie Landers was the art director of Harper's, said to me, Clive, do you still paint? And I said, I'm so obsessed by photography. I mean, it takes a long time to paint, and I've been life drawing for like 5 years, every day photographing a nude figure, and that, you know, I was very good at drawing. And the thing is like that, it's like you lose the method. If I started again to paint, it would take me at least 6 months to get back into drawing, because what I do now is this is my creative outlet, and it's an obsession, you know. And that's why I use Hasselblad for most of the time, unless I'm on location photographing outside very quickly. But even then, the smaller Hasselblad is great for that. But no, for me, this is what I do. I would love to paint again, but it takes so much time. And besides, the thing is that it used to cost me about 100 pounds to paint a picture, but now, of course, you've got the studio, the lights, the model. And when it was film, when the Pirelli calendars were done, I think the film bill was 3,000 quid for the printing and for developing. So the thing is, now one can show the model if she's jumping or something and her hands are in her face. You say, no, can you move your hand down to here when you're jumping? So you can now, you get an instant playback, which is great for if you're shooting moving objects in fashion and beauty. You can say, no, can you like there or here? And I always do all the looks for them. I must look like a mad person. Yeah, but they get a lot of laugh out of it. And it brings every shoot, it really, 99% of them are just full of joy and fun, because we all have such a great time. Well, it's such a privilege to photograph beautiful people, wonderful artists, beautiful creative actors and painters, and all the gamut of wonderful people in the world, from, you know, from Save the Children, which I've done that where I had a studio on the banks of outside the South Bank, you know, shooting that for them, or doing portraits of, you know, disabled people, or the cancer research, and all those kind of things. But I don't matter. I think you talked about that Irving Penn, friend of yours, a friend, said he photographs cigarette stumps and bits of paper and odd things, and does he like doing that, or does he like doing models, or photographing models? And she said, no, his cousin or somebody said to me, no, he likes photographing anything, doesn't matter. And when I met him, that's what he said. Remember, Clive, you're an eye. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about this image that we're looking at the moment. I think it's quite
from the Paris collections. As I said, this was Courage, I think, and he was, you know, it was very much into the sci-fi and kind of period. And somebody said to me, oh, but the reflection of the light in the thing. I said, no, leave that. That's great. It looks like something from a sci-fi movie. And as a kid and growing up, I was always into science fiction, you know, and all those kind of things.
And it's quite appropriate for today, really, with all face masks.
Yeah, of course. Can I just turn this light up a little second? 1 second. I'm just going to move up 1 second. Sorry, because I couldn't even see. I was almost in silhouette. Oh, there you go. That makes it real, doesn't it? There you go. Yes, so that was her photograph on a Hasselblad with a blue light behind the background, lots of soft spun. I think it was actually tracing paper, and it kept on catching fire, so we had to turn the modeling light off. So it's all, you know, there's a lot of things to get over when you take pictures, when you're trying to capture something that's very fleeting. And that look, she looked up for that moment, and that was the look I wanted, you know, by trial to the stars, as it were.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next image we're going to look at is this one here.
That one, actually, her foot is off the ground. She is floating in with her toe is actually off the ground. So that's my third wife, as it were, Annie Schaufus, who was a Danish ballerina. And she, for me, was my muse most of the time in all my pictures for 10 years until we were living in New York. And George Harrison, who's a friend of mine, had given me a Bhagavad Gita. You know, I'm a Buddhist now, but then exploring spiritual paths, and I became a Tibetan and Zen Buddhist. But then he gave me this jeweled book, and she read it. And while I was away and shooting for Lina Italiana in London, she gave all her money away and joined the Hare Krishnas and broke my heart. But we're still friends, and now she lives in Sweden, Denmark. But she was a ballerina. She could do these moves. I mean, to get a model, most models don't know how to jump like this. But she was able to, when I said, can you jump and put your arms out like this and do like that, she would be able to do it. And because we were obviously lovers, it was at the time, then we had a great relationship, you know. And sometimes she said, I can't do any more. I said, yes, just one more. I think that's the photographer's brand, isn't it? You're doing a celebrity, you say, can I just do one more? They say, no, not that again. And Michael Palin said, not that again, just one more. But then I think when you've got it, Irving Penn said, you carry on trying to get it, because it's never right. No matter what we do, how creative we get from my point of view, it's never going to be good enough. But the excitement of trying to do it is like, you know, that's the great hunt and the great way.
Okay, and then there's another one of Anne here, is it?
And yeah, well, she was the most beautiful girl. I mean, even now, you know, looking at it, it's still a fantastic feeling about her. She was such a wonderful model with such a natural beauty, you know, and she has that momentary look. The thing is about it is that, of course, we were at the same time in love, I suppose, and that's a look of, you know, that you get. But the thing is, I've found that if you've got models, you make them laugh, and when the laughter is coming up, and as it's gone down, there's still the remaining ghost of electricity still in the face, and that's why you get that wonderful look in a photograph. The joy that remains in the skeletal face, you know, which comes through every time. I mean, that's the same in all paintings. They always look like somebody's delighted them. So you get that, you know, that's what I try to get anyway. That kind of moment of something moving between the photographer and the model. It's inexplainable, because it's like love, isn't it? It's just one of those things.
Yeah. Do you think that's one of the most important elements of
I think it's important that we're both doing that. There's no picture without the model or the subject. Like whether it's a landscape, you wait at the time. As I said, somebody's doing a program tomorrow in Chicago about my Ansel Adams, and was one of my favorite photographers, and Brett Weston. I don't know why, but they've chosen me to be the non-counterpart. And the thing is, if you read Ansel Adams' books, he waited for the moment, the clouds in the sky and everything was just there. So in point of fact, one has to manufacture the moment if you're of that moment, and that's what I try to do. I try to, you know, you do say, I remember I was photographing Raquel Welch once, and she said to me, I said, oh, I'm sorry, she was in the dressing room. She said, and she was just in, you know, a dressing gown or something like that, looking gorgeous. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, no, Clive, you're supposed to tell me I look beautiful. And you tell women they look beautiful sincerely, because they're most beautiful women in the world, most of the models, you know. And even if they're not, I always say, you look fabulous, it's great. And I show them the picture, and they usually, you know, get a bang out of that, because I do try to make people look at their beautiful best, you know, without making it look too, you know, kind of insincere or anything. I do try to get that. I think that's one of the important things about that. A lot of people do odd pictures of people, and that's their bag. But I just try to make people look the best they possibly can be, if possible. Again.
And then with a question from John asking about your flash that you use and your lighting. Do you have like a typical go-to setup, or do you change it for each shoot?
Well, the thing is, most of the time I use an umbrella with black paper pinned all around it to try and gobo it down. And then I think it was Balcar Pro Center sent me the beauty dish, which Terry O'Neill ran off with, bless out. And then I use black wrap around it, so I make a soft light, so it limits the light. I don't like the light spreading everywhere. You will not get any of the shadows in the like you see in this. You know, I do try to get that. And there's a picture of Bowie, which I goboed everything off with a spotlight. Later on, you look at it, I think. And what I do is I use flash. And I was photographing Patrick Litchfield, Lord Litchfield, bless him, now he passed away. And he said to me, Clive, it's so fabulous how you get all this wonderful look with one light. I said, it looks like one light, but there's little fillers here and there. This is 2.5 stops down. This is maybe a stop just coming slightly here and there. So what you do is use as you would, because I started off doing film when David Putnam was my agent, when I just started before I went to Vogue, when I was still in television, and I won Young Director of the Year, and I always copied the lighting from those great black and white movies of Betty Davis and Humphrey Bogart, where people come into a reveal and come out of the darkness, and James Wan Howie and all those old lighting cameramen, and the Hollywood photographers like George Hurrell, who did all the fantastic pictures. And I had the great joy of meeting him, and I said, how did you get the retouching? Everybody looks so wonderful. He said, I've got a wax transparent pen and I retouched on the 10x8 on the day, so it softened everything down. But there's lots of filters. I mean, I've used sometimes bits of old wire on things just to take it back a bit. I don't like pictures that are too soft. Why get a great camera that renders everything to try and soften it down? But sometimes one needs a little thing to take it back,
Yeah. Right, so moving on to the next image, and we've got a question as well from Pierre. Where do you get your inspiration from?
Desperation, actually, from because I think, oh no. And the inspiration becomes in the fact that you choose the actor or the actress or the model. Or, I mean, if I'm photographing a famous actor, I've seen what they did before, so that's it. And when the model is, I go to the dressing room and talk to the makeup, I choose the makeup artist if I can, the stylist, and we talk about the idea. And if you say, do I paint? Well, I don't paint, but I do drawings of what I'm going to do. And then this makeup artist, I think, painted the arm. And then there's Picasso's blue period paintings. He always had these little chemises around the body, and the figures are quite white. And that was from Picasso's blue period, and the pink period. That's how I did it like that. And Maudie James made up, she's got that hypnotic, beautiful look. And she's just a wonderful model. There was Maudie James, Annie Schaufus, Ingrid Bolting. At that time, there were star models who went like superstars going off in Ferraris. They were working girls. But when I first went to Vogue, and before that, Terry Donovan said to me, and they'd been there about 12 years, Bailey and Donovan and Duffy, that the girls used to arrive with a handbag with their makeup and their hair and the shoes and do all their makeup themselves. Then, of course, in the 70s, and 69 to 70, when I started working for Vogue 1970, you had great makeup artists who'd fly from Paris, and Beatrice Miller sent me with this picture to see Alexander Lieberman in New York for American Vogue with a letter saying, this is one of my favorite pictures we had in Vogue for many years. And then I got there and he showed me into his office, and I said, and then he looked at my portfolio. He had a portfolio, and he looked at it and he said, he looked out the window and smoked a cigarette. He was the one who was working with Avedon and Penn, and he was the grand art director of all Vogue. And he said, your pictures are very, very beautiful, but far too exotic for American Vogue. So I went away and got drunk in a pub around the corner on Fifth Avenue, I think. I was very disappointed. So then I didn't work for American Vogue very much, just a few things now and again.
Okay, then the Bowie shot that you just referenced a second ago.
Yeah, this was that was the same thing. It was a spotlight, and I even because spotlights are difficult, flash spot, they get this halation kind of yellow ring. Have you ever noticed around the edge? So what you do is you put a piece of black paper, so it's going out of the spotlight through a piece of black paper and onto the subject, so you don't get the fringing at the edges of it. And then David was moving, like there's some other pictures where he's moving in and out of it, and he moved to one side, and I put a piece of black paper and gobo, it's an old word, masked off the side. So he's only got one eye here in this picture. He's got, his eyes are different. And I said, is it okay? I just want to show one eye. And I'd known him for a long time anyway. I photographed his first pictures when he was with the band Feathers. So, and I've done a few pictures of him. And he said, no, it's good. He was cool anyway, because we knew each other since ages. He asked me to go and join him in the Buddhist monastery in Scotland in 1970, and before he was really big. And I said, oh no, I was into having a good time in those days. And later now I'm a Buddhist and one of the official photographers too, so it's the Dalai Lama, which is great, yeah, but then that's what I did. And then he just for a moment stared with that dynamic look he always had into the camera, and I managed to get this shot on a Hasselblad on like, I think Panatomic X, or yeah, it was about 25 ASA or something like that.
Okay, and where do you typically shoot? Is it normally studio based, and you also work out of?
The only reason people say to me, why do you shoot in the studio? I said, well, England, it's you go start in the morning at, say, the Zion House with a beauty shoot for Harper's and gowns and everything like that. And everyone says, oh, look at the shafts of light coming through the window. It's so divine. I said, yeah, it is. But the time the makeup and the hair's done and they've all camped it up in the dressing room, the hair and the makeup, and it's so fabulous. Then it's now lunchtime and the light's gone. There's no sustainable light unless you can go on location and get shooting days. I mean, weather days, I'm sorry. So yeah, but the things you do in the studio, because I need control, because my forte is lighting things. You know, even if it's outside, I light it. The Pirelli was shot in the desert at 40 degrees, the second one in the desert in Almeria, where they shot the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it was like, I built a whole canopy over it, so the girl was in silhouette. And I just had a generator, a Hasselblad, and a disc light with a soft R over it, and lit it with just one light and the generator going to get every shot, so I can isolate the figure. The figure was in shadow, and there was no back to the studio. You could see straight onto the landscape, because of course you don't want to just see a girl against the white wall when they've paid for all this 100 grand for somebody to go out. Not for me, how much it costs for all the models and the press, you know. So the thing is, I was showing the landscape of the desert, and then in the other one in the south of France, I shot in the Massif Central, and the same thing. We built a big canopy out of scaffolding poles. Now you can get you know, these quick erection studios, but then it was all scaffolding poles and a big truck, and like a film production really, but all shot with Hasselblad.
Okay, and this one of Mick, the reason I asked the question is this one was in a hotel, wasn't it? I think you said.
Boy, I think I mentioned it before. Yeah,
yeah.
It's American magazine, like Rolling Stone. It was one of those. Said, can we do a portrait of Mick? And I said, well, I've known him a bit before, because we in that, you know, at nightclubs and things. I've seen him a lot. And at Ready Steady Go, of course. So when I went, he said he's got the suite number 14 or something at the Savoy overlooking the river. So I went there, and it was I could hear music and dancing. I thought, oh, that must be it. So we went there. My sisters and I put up all the lights to get everything going. They were all looking at us, the people. I think it was Depeche Mode were having a party, or one of those anyway. And I said, where's Mick? And they said, no, it's next door. So we had to take everything and go next door. And Mick said, I've been waiting. But he was okay. And this is just a shot. It was by a window, but I drew the curtains, and I saw the light from the window was great, but I wanted the quality. And I think it was, you know, F8 at a fortnight. I think it was about half a second at wide open. But I just put the umbrella in front of the window and had them draw the curtains, and I just imitated the daylight. What I'm trying to do all the time is to imitate that kind of wonderful daylight, which you can get. I mean, of course, if you can sit in a room and the light's drifting through the window, I have done those kind of pictures, which is great, the little fillers and just to fill things in. But that's what it is. It's an imitation of daylight, which is all artificial light is anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. And we've had a question from Peter actually along those lines. Do you ever use continuous light as well as flash, or instead of?
Well, yeah, movies, of course. But the thing is, I find that it's for the previous picture of Anne jumping, you know, sometimes I say I want a movement. The thing is, even then on my 500C, I think it was only 500 of the second in those days, 1972, something like that. So the thing is, you've got to have the flash going off really fast as a maximum, minimum distance. So the thing is at a minimum exposure with the flash and the camera. So sometimes I prefer to get the moment, you know, because I was talking to Irving Penn's old assistant at a friend of mine had a barbecue just outside somewhere down in Hammersmith beyond. I live in Chiswick, and he said, "Oh, by the way, your great idol Irving Penn, his old assistant is here," and I met him. He was very nice, and he was telling me those wonderful pictures of Penn. I think they were shot some with a Raleigh and then with the first Hasselblads. They had to stay still for like like this, and then he'd get the shot in like 1,000, 2,000. And that's why those early portraits have that stillness about them. You just use daylight. And the thing is, I like sometimes them laughing or moving. If you haven't got flash to capture the encapsulated, you know, you're not going to get that. So it's an imitation of light, which is imitation of daylight. But the thing is, yes, sometimes I do. If I'm doing a rock video or something like that, and everything's lit, it looks okay, and then I can do that. But most of the time, I've used I use flash most of the time, all the time really, or daylight outside, whatever. But anything comes to hand. I mean, sometimes there's a light dripping through the window, and I just say, that's fine, let's do this. I think you have to see it and embrace the moment.
Yeah. Okay, and Sayoko.
Sayoko Yamaguchi. Yeah, she was the icon of Japanese fashion. She worked for Jean Paul Gaultier and for Yves Saint Laurent in Paris. Unfortunately, she passed away, died of cancer. But she came to London, and it was a Harper's cover. And I said to the makeup artist, "Can you make her face up?" And she just was so compliant. I mean, I couldn't speak Japanese. She couldn't speak English very much. And I said, "Can you use that white geisha?" So they rushed off and got this white makeup and made up all her face in white and their ear. They left the ear, and I said, "The ear." So I said, "Make the ear." And then I wanted to do this kind of semi-kabuki beauty thing. And then we sent off for down to Baptiste Hire, which Harper's was then in Soho. I think it still is, Harper's and Queen. It was Harper's at then, wasn't it? And then they got this samurai sword, and she just rested it like that. And I got this picture with, I love Japanese hair. It's just great to photograph. It's like the sheen on it and well, of course, the Hasselblad and the detail is overpowering for me. I mean, sorry, I'm constantly saying to my assistants when we're doing a shoot, blow it up. Is it sharp? Let me have a look. They blow it up 200%. I say, yeah, okay, that's sharp, no matter what.
Okay, so is that medium format? Is that why you choose to use medium format, and for the way you can ability to blow it up, or?
Yeah, no, the ability to capture it. I mean, the Hasselblad, it captures it. Now the digital one. I mean, even like at 8x10. But even then, a Hasselblad on like 100 Ektachrome 100 ISO, this one, the capture is quite incredible, even big, and even a big print. I think there's one in a shop in May for a big print of Sayoko, which is, I think is, I don't know, 18-foot across, printed on white aluminium, and the quality of it even bigger. And it looks better when it gets bigger. I don't know what reason it is. I think it's the print quality as well. Yes, the capture is the most important you can get.
Okay, and we've had a few questions about which lenses you typically use for portrait. Do you have a favorite, or?
Yeah, of course. I've got the same lens I use. I can get it out and bring it to you if you want. It's over there. I'll go and get it if you want to have a look. And it's the same camera. This is my go-to. Just a second. Yeah, 1 second. Go-to. For what I use. This is the camera I used for everything, and the wind on, and I could do the wind on with a fold-out winder. This is a Hasselblad. That's the lens that I shot all these on, the 150, and I think it was a bit of a medical one that I got. And they said, "Oh, it's been used for a medical." I said, "Oh, great," because it's even more detailed. But this is the one that I've still got. I still use this lens if I'm doing film, and I've got the back protected, and I've got the film backs from the original and everything like that. But it still fires there, and that's like 30 years old at least. I mean, a remarkable thing. I mean, it's just, the thing is, if you have a great sword, you use it over and over again if you're a samurai. And this is the same thing with the Hasselblad 500C.
Yeah.
The thing always worked. It's like a Lexus. What I'm going to tell you. It's just great.
Okay. And a question about this image from Beng. It's about the color of the eyes. Is that real, or is it?
I had,
Thought about the picture he took of Mick Jagger. He said, "Yeah, we're doing it in the hotel in New York." So we got there. He said, "I've known him before because I'd met him in nightclubs and stuff like that."
This is my
and we
assistant.
went to the hotel and said, "Oh, he's in the suite, so and so and so and so." So we went upstairs and we knocked on the door, and there was like a party going on inside. So we thought, "Oh, Mick's having a party." So we went in, and me and the assistant set all the lights up in the back up and everything, got everything going, and then turned around to someone, and it was like the singer of Depeche Mode who was having a party. And he said, "Where's Mick?" And he went, "Mick?" He went, "Mick Jagger, where is he?" He went, "Oh, he's in the suite next door." So we had to take everything down and go next door. They went next door, and Mick Jagger was like, "Where have you been? I've been waiting here." Just...
Anyway, that was Ian from the repeating what happened with the Mick Jagger picture.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Ian. I didn't know to phone in. That's fine.
Okay.
Mark, I didn't know you could phone in.
No, I didn't. I wondered who that was. It was a complete surprise to me.
Anyway, it's quite funny. I mean, it's just, you know, that's the way it is. I mean, my assistants and I always stay in the same hotels. We always eat at the same table. If we go on locations to Taiwan or Japan, we always hang out together. I don't, I mean, you know, it's just like we're all working together. But the thing so happens to be that I've made some kind of small mark on the photography world a little bit, and but we all benefit from that. I mean, Ian wants to borrow a lens or something or some lights from me, and I just, you know, do it. Ian ringing off, that was cool. Sorry.
Okay. That's the first for me. Yeah, so we were talking about the eyes on this image. Is it the
the eyes? Yes, the thing is that on the eyes on this, I had a green strip that I put on it just to see what it would look like across her eyes, because she's got these amazing eyes and they're quite dark. And so I lit this spot ding like that. In film, I was working doing films, you know, for a lot of commercials that you would have seen. I mean, I won the Silver Lion at the Cannes Film Festival for my Hamlet commercials, one of them. Anyway, the thing is that there's a little light called an inky dink, and it's a very small spot that you project into the eye, you know what I mean? So I couldn't get that. I couldn't get it to work at the time. But then when I saw it in Photoshop, it was just a little green glimmer. And I actually, I am a liar. I did use to brighten up the eyes and the little green glimmer in her eye, because she had that kind of eyes that sometimes whether you get this fleck of green in them. Yeah, she was just the most beautiful girl.
Okay, so moving on to the next image. Sorry. So this is the one you spoke about earlier.
This is Kansai Yamamoto, and that's when the first time I did his pictures for Vogue. There's his collection for Vogue, and since then I've been to Japan and I started making a film on him, and he threw us to Japan with my assistants. And also, I said to Grace Coddington, can you get a small little model to dress in the little outfit and get her in? And that's Marie Helvin, the famous model, and I shot that with that pink glow again, shot it at Vogue, and it was a whole series on Kansai Yamamoto. Yeah.
Okay, and a question from
It's a Hasselblad shot on film with a 150 lens. The 150 lens I showed you is the lens I really use for everything. Pirelli Calendar, I found that no matter where I go, there's always something in the way. So even in the Pirelli, I remember one of the company directors of Pirelli had a tripod at the wrong angle, and I had it, and there was somebody supporting me, and he let me put his foot on his shoulder, because I had the 150 lens that I wanted to get back to get the shot in. But usually I'd be, you know, a way away to get the full wide picture, but it's all shot on a 150. I mean, the 150 is the go-to lens for me. I mean, it's like a 90 on a 35mm, you know, because it's like a beauty shot. It doesn't it flattens it a little bit, but it's not like a 50 sometimes comes a bit towards you like this is. But that's the lens I usually use for everything, you know.
Okay, a question from Tonya. How old were you when you got your first camera?
Well, I mean, although I was 7 in Wales, and I took a picture of my grandmother on a brownie green leather box camera, because I was into visual things, and I still got the picture somewhere. And it was in North Wales in her garden. And that's the first time I got a camera. And then, as I said, when I was like 21, 22, I then got my first Nikon and my first Hasselblad, which was then my go-to camera because of the capture.
Okay, so talking about capture, this is got quite an interesting technique behind it. You want to tell us a bit more about this?
Well, this was the beauty book for Vogue. Every year they do the beauty book, and they said to me, we want to use flowers, and Annie, again, my third, you know, girl. I photographed. I thought I did some drawings. We were living together in my house in Kensington, and I said, I want to put you in a flower with your face coming out, which is a kind of, you know, Buddhist thing, like the rising from the lotus. I couldn't get lotuses at the time, so I had to get a lily. So I photographed Annie on black, and so that the light was falling from above, and which then fell into shadow around the edges of the flower. And then I took the back off carefully, did a little drawing on a glass slide. There used to be those old glass slides, didn't they, to put transparencies in. Put that on the back, and with a pen, wax pen, drew around it carefully as much as I could, then took it to the other camera, put it on where the flower was, and kind of fiddled around with it until I realized that the white of the flower would overexpose and cut into the other picture. After looking at some Polaroids, about 10 packs of Polaroids, getting more and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, sometimes forgetting to wind on, you know, then I eventually got about 5 of these frames that were just 100%, and that was the cover of the beauty book. So that's how it happened. I mean, I just kept on double exposing it from one camera on one piece of film. So it was a double exposure on one piece of film, the face, then the flower, and they were both lit from the same angle, so you would get the same continuity. So the flower is lit so it falls slightly into shadow, and at the background of the flower I just lit this sort of rose-colored purple grad in the back of the studio, so that I didn't want it just to look all on black, that it looked like a cutout. It wanted to look like the real thing, and everybody said, how did you do it? And when I explained to them, they said, I don't understand. I said, never mind. That's how I did it. Double exposed on one piece of film.
And then this image was a similar technique.
They all look a bit pale, these images on here. Anyway, this is Paul. Paul, at the end, I was doing a publicity day and beauty shots and celebrity shots of Paul and Linda and all the band, and it was Wings at the Speed of Sound. So at the end of the sort of talk, down to the end of the day, Paul said to me, you know, the pictures are all great and you'll look great for all things, but I want something to say movement, like wings at the speed of sound, sound vibrating. You know, Clive, can you do anything like that? It was at the end of the day, well, if it's done in actually. But anyway, you know, Paul is really good with you if you suggest an idea. I said, okay. I dimmed the lights in the studio to almost darkness, took the modeling light down, which I had an umbrella on a boom like this, and I then stopped it to f/22, the Hasselblad, left it like that, and I put the Polaroid back on the camera and I put a piece of white gaffer tape on the floor in the line. I said, Paul, stand in the middle, do a face like this, do other faces, and step to the side each time, half a step, half a step. So we fiddled around with it for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then I got a Polaroid and peeled it off and showed him. He said, look, Linda, this is great. All right, you know, it's our kids, our Clive, you know, Spike. Used to call me Spike, still does. And so then I went through the process with Linda and with the other 4 guys, with you know, Denny Lane and Jimmy McCulloch, who were in Wings. So that's what happened with that, was quadruple exposures on one piece of film with no modeling light on. It was just a flash going off in the dark. Move, flash, move, flash, move. So I could see in the flash, each imprinted on my eyes, the flash, each one going along. And then he stood to the other side and then he did it again. So they overlap a little bit, but I thought, no, but it actually makes it quite like a vibration of sound, Wings at the Speed of Sound. And was, you know, the actual title dictated how I could get the shot.
So do you think the way your work and your personality and your sort of the relationship you build up with your subjects like Paul enables you to get shots like this?
Yes, because they I'd done Band on the Run before that, and I was just starting off when I did Band on the Run, and it was like a 2-second exposure and they wouldn't stay still, and it was an old spotlight. I didn't know about flash spots or anything, and so they were delighted with that, Band on the Run. And then I did Wings at the Speed of Sound and Off the Ground and lots of other things, you know, with Paul, portraits of him and Linda together, him with all his, I've done all Paul with all his guitar collection in black and white, all shot on Hasselblad, which is another thing coming out in the next rock book. You know, with every guitar, he's from a Stratocaster to the bass, the original Hofner bass, and all the different guitars he's got. No, once they love what you do, or like whatever, you have a confidence with them, you know, like you would with going to a good doctor or a good manicurist. I don't have a manicurist, but you know what I mean. And once you've got, and this is the idea, as soon as you're familiar with a Hasselblad camera, you know, I could wind it on, I think, faster than the motor wind at the time was. You know, the thing is, I usually used to beat the flash a lot, and I said, "Make the flash, I'm going too fast." So even though we had it on quick, so the thing is that I used to get this rhythm with the wind on, which I loved. and it took me a bit of time to get pressing the button. Then the thing just winds on the latest Hasselblads I've got, the digital ones. Yeah. No, but that's what it is. I mean, if you get a client or somebody like Jeremy Irons, I photographed a lot, and he's a friend of mine. And if we talked about ideas and scripts, I mean, he'll just put funny hats on, do this, do that. I've photographed him as an ancient mariner with a long beard backstage with lights. And so that if once you show that, what I do is do a Polaroid, I'll show them straight away on the screen. And once they think, oh yeah, not bad. Did you do this? I said, yeah, I just did this. Yes. Then you get confidence in them, you know, like going to a guy who's a good gardener or somebody who's a good guide. They feel they let you do what you want because you know what you're doing. And it's very nice because sometimes I photograph people and they said, oh, Clive, darling, it's so great to be photographed by a real photographer. So I don't know why I was so touched by it. I think, oh, well, that happened to me a couple of times with people because they've seen my pic. Of course, they've seen your pictures in Vogue, they've seen the Pirelli, they've seen Harper's, they've seen the Sunday Times Colour magazine, they've seen all these various magazines, W and all the things around the world, all the different Italian Vogue. So they're au fait with your work. I mean, like, you know, that's when they can relate to that.
And I suppose it's a technique that's sort of unique to film, really. You can't really do it with today's digital cameras unless it's in Photoshop, I guess.
Oh, no. I mean, I do everything as possible. I get, you know, people say, oh, you know, a lot of assistants, and people say to me, I was working with this photographer because my assistant, Ian, as you can see, he's very flamboyant. He works with a couple of other like still life photographers and other photographers, and you know, Simon Emmett and things like that. Some of the art directors even say, oh, just that'll do, we'll get it done in Photoshop. No, it always looks like it's done in Photoshop. I think you have to get the original capture as close to what you want. Of course, if there's a lamppost sticking out of a girl's head in the sky, is great. Thank goodness for Photoshop that you can take it out. You know what I mean? Or if there's something in there, like some people waving in the back, this girl flowing dress looking wonderful, and there's some blokes going, so of course you get rid of them like that. I did Prince Charles's 50th birthday portrait down at Highgrove, and there was some sheep on one side. He had a shepherd's crook and he was standing amongst the flowers and you know, looking fab, which is a really wonderful man to photograph. And then there was all sheep on one side, none on the other. So then it was in the papers. It said, I did an interview. Yeah, your picture of Prince Charles' 50th birthday portrait, which then uses a postage stamp earlier on this year. Then they said, did you any Photoshop? I said, yeah, I just moved a few sheep to the other side because the flock looked a bit thin. So I copied that, but nothing on him. I mean, and then they said Prince Charles's photograph retouched. No, that's the great thing about Photoshop. You can just do those things as long as but I don't care really what you do to a picture as long as it works. It's like a recording thing. You can put effects on the voice and things like that. And it doesn't, I mean, as long as it works, it doesn't matter. This is Rachel Kirby, which I shot for the FT How to Spend It. My assistants and I built the room in a day, in the morning, and then shot in the afternoon. And she was about, I think, 15 or 16, but she looks like a really mature, vibrant woman, you know. And so yeah, that was for Ferro or Jean-Paul Gaultier. No, it's one of those, but a series of dresses. And the thing I liked about it was Damien Fox styled it. The thing is, it was just pink boots, which you can't see, unfortunately, they shot, and just black clothes. So you see, the limitation of the thing makes it look stronger, like a Japanese ink calligraphy. It always looks very powerful. So I mean, I think in art school, I remember Paul Klee was a famous Viennese painter, early abstract. He said, I always remember these little quotes from art school: limitation of means engenders style. If a thing is far too cluttered and over the place, I think the mind finds it hard to read it. I like things to be very simple and dynamic. Now, the picture of Bowie is just a figure coming out of the shadows. And this is a black dress, grey room, pink boots, and it's just got that simplicity about it, which gives it a dynamic, you know. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay. And another shot you mentioned earlier, yeah.
Yeah, this is His Holiness, yeah. I photographed great blessing and fortunate in my life. I am a Buddhist, and for me, I consider that the best thing that's happened to me. And the thing is that I was introduced to His Holiness by my teacher, Chonglorato Rinpoche, who's 93 now and is in Dharamsala. Anyway, I was in New York as Richard Gere, we have the same teacher, he became a friend of mine, and he gave us a room in the hotel, the Mark, off the in the park, where all the monks stayed, and I stayed. And then I had enough room to put a backdrop and a bit of, lights, just wedged in a little bit there. But then His Holiness was just, for a moment, closed his eyes and in contemplation, which he does, because there's no edge to the Dalai Lama. You could talk about anything to him. I mean, even erotic, mad things if you wanted to, but you're not going to. But because there's such a, he doesn't judge you, or it's all up to you. You know, as the Buddhists say, that this is what the Buddha did. It's up to you. If you want to go that way, you can. You know, and this picture is in the new book, The Last Dalai Lama, and a lot of people. You know, I mean, it's the touching thing is a lot of photographs I've done of the Dalai, His Holiness. I mean, the photographed people around the world have been very touched. I'm not trying to sound peace, love, love, and peace and all that. No, it's just the fact that the effect of meeting the Dalai Lama, even though he might meet like 3,000 people in a day, it doesn't change. He's always okay with every single person, you know. And as I said, our path is kindness, not really a religion. It's a way, Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. Anyway, here we jolly well are.
Yeah. So he must have been one of the people you had wanted to photograph. And we've got a question from Tony. Is there anyone else that you haven't yet shot that you would like to photograph?
A myriad people. I just love to work. Yeah. Large gin and tonic. I don't drink. Anyway, yes, there's some amazing actors that I haven't photographed. The guy who played Nero in The Gladiator, I can't remember his name now, and played the Joker. He's got a wonderful face, and he's such a fantastic actor. I'd like to photograph a lot more actors. I've got in the book, fashion clip tests, contacts, and image, a lot of actors, and I'd like to collect a few more actors. I can't really be specific about a lot of them, but I mean, there's a lot of really amazing people. What I like is somebody who is really, you know, someone who's embraced what they do and and it shows, you know. I mean, that's what it is when you meet actors like Jeremy Irons or somebody like that. And then this is like Laila Ali, which I shot for Nike in New York. And when I got there, it's funny about the picture of the Dalai Lama. There's these bodyguards all around her because she's Muhammad Ali's daughter. There was this studio in New York and all like that. And they said, "What are you doing here, man?" And all like that. I said, "Oh, well, I'm here from London to photograph Laila Ali, this Laila Ali for this campaign." And they said, "Oh, well, we'll tell her." And anyway, so she was in the studio. And I took this picture of the Dalai Lama, a different one with His Holiness smiling, another portrait. And I said, "Oh, lovely to meet you. And I wanted to give you this picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I know your father, the great Muhammad Ali, he met His Holiness and they got on really well." And she was like, you know, as anybody does, if you've never met them before and you're going to be photographed, slightly. She said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And then she did pictures in a dressing gown, pictures in a boxing outfit, and all kinds of things. And I shot this on, I think, 125 ASA Pan X on the Hasselblad with a 150 lens. Yeah, because it gives that look that I really like. Actually, I used to shoot a lot of fashion pictures, and the one of Annie jumping up, I would be on the ground looking up, you know, because that lens pulls the figure forward, so it doesn't look from underneath. It just makes models look monumental, and I think that's the thing. It makes it more striking. If you're shooting up on something with a 150, you know, if you get further than that with the 250, it starts to look like the bottom's out and the top's in. But if you get the right stop, you know, say about, you know, f11, something like that, the optimum for that lens, I think, then you get that, it looks like they're floating if you get the speed right, you know.
Did you ever get the opportunity to meet her father or shoot her father?
No, he was long. This is about 8 years ago. No, Muhammad Ali left the planet by then.
No, but not back in the earlier days. No.
No, I never met him at all. I would dash to New York, come back, and every time I was there, say photograph, say for Esquire, Bram Ferry, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, a few people like that, and I would then come back. I'd go there, stay, and then we lived there for a bit. But then I was doing fashion all the time, you know, except for some things going down to, you know, some states to photograph Sissy Spacek, and it isn't pictures in here, but we waited for like 2 weeks there. Esquire sent me down there with my assistants, and we were living in the hotel on the Lav Luxury and getting out of it. And it's like 25 years ago, I think, the days of drink. And we had to go every night at the end of the thing and say, "Is she ready?" And they said, "No, she's not till tomorrow." So I went there one night and they said, "She's ready." And I got this black no, because the editor in New York said, "How do you see it?" I said, "A black stallion with the red hair blowing around it against a dramatic sky." He said, "I love it. Do it." So we went down there, and she arrived in a big limo, hair all shaved off, a black horse against the sky that had gone dark. So all you got was this. She'd be doing a deathbed scene with Mel Gibson, you know, and so there was this frightened-looking woman with something floating in the sky, which was the horse's eye. So there's nothing I could do. I tried to light it with flash, but I couldn't compensate, say, with a longer exposure because it was getting dark. So the mad things do happen, which we haven't got any control over, you know, all the time, you know.
Okay, so again, referenced earlier, but so these were shot on the H6D 100C.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, they look a bit pale on here, but they're actually quite very rich. But I think it's just because they're JPEGs. And yeah, the yes, this was Olivier Chevalier. I think that's how you pronounce it. He makes wigs. He said, "Oh, Clive, I only do blonde wigs." So I said, "Okay." And he brought all these wigs from Paris, and we shot for the beauty papers. And this was one of them. I mean, it was. You say what inspires you? I mean, the stylist and the art and the Maxine Leonard, who's the art director and also a fantastic makeup artist and art director of the magazine, and along with this other lady who designs the magazine. Then the thing is that she just got this. I got this girl. I was driving down to my Peter Gabriel exhibition in Bath earlier on in the year, at the beginning of the year in January, I think, and they were sending pictures of my PA, Eugenia, who's also my agent. She was showing me pictures like this as we were driving on the motorway, and they sent two, and this girl just had this classical face. I said, "Get her," and they got her. And then her mother, and she was so delighted with the pictures. But the model agency said they're too arty, we can't use them. So, but she was quite disappointed. You know. There you go. I think they wanted more of a, you know, commercial look for her. But she's a working model. She works all the time. This is from the same session, and that's another one of Chevalier's wigs, blonde wigs, and it's the same girl. And the stylist said, "I've got this dress," and he showed it to me. And of course, it was almost a mirror of the actual wig. So, it was, and I just lit it with one light, a beauty dish on a boom, and in the background, as you can see, I just put through the paper this warm brown light. It was white paper really, dropping off to shadow, so it just gives this halation. I mean, you can do that now in Photoshop. You can, you know, blend it in like that. But even on this JPEG, you can see the capture of the individual hairs. And if you see the print, I've got prints that I've had made at Genesis Labs, with my go-to lab in Battersea, and there would be like a 10 foot, 20 foot across. It even gets better, you know, on a big Fuji printer, you know. And then you wait for this thing to print, and it's awe-inspiring. But it wouldn't be any good unless you got the capture on the Hasselblad.
Yeah, thanks for the plug. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the images, and we've got a couple of little questions to ask you, if that's okay. So David, what film types do you normally use, and is there a particular film that you think works best with the Hasselblad and the 150 lens?
Yeah, I would say the Ektachrome 100 is what I use most of the time, even though there's no reflection on my face. This camera looks like a barroom tan, as I think, because it's my Logitech didn't seem to kick in. Anyway, camera, I mean Logitech camera. No, I use, and for black and white, for some of those portraits like Laila Ali, I used 100 ASA, either Kodak. I always use a very fine grain film. I mean, they used to make a Panatomic X, I think it was like 50, and you know, you'd have to be very careful with the focus, because I was very careful. But the thing is, the grain structure was so fantastic that you could refine the image very much. So I mean, you'll still, even if you shoot on a 400 ASA, but usually my shootings are 100 ASA, color and 100 say black and white to get the optimum capture. Then you can change things if you want.
Okay. Question from Bo. So do you tend to talk to your models and subjects all through the shoot?
I think you can see I don't stop talking. Yes, of course. Yeah, we talk before we have coffee or tea and talk about what we're going to do. And I always suggest, well, do you think you can do this or like that? Like, Selma Hayek and things like that. You just talk to them beforehand, and get on with them so that they are feeling, you're not just coming in going, thank you, and get off. And no, I think that of course, you have to have a rapport. I mean, I'm really, when I shoot, if I'm doing a portrait or even the fashion, I want it to be up there and going, all the different things. And the thing is, I'm the cabaret for them, so that they say, he's mad. Who put a nickel in him? They say in America. It's just coffee and excitement.
Okay. And then we've got a few questions asking if you've used the X1D, which you haven't, the smaller one.
Yes, I used it. I had an exhibition at the Lowry Gallery. It was one of the first jobs I did when I first got my Nikon. Sorry to mention the other thing. Was a 35mm. Was a shoot in Salford, Lowry. I went to stay with him for a couple of days, and because we both liked Raphaelite paintings, I got on with it. So yes, and at the same time, they were having the exhibition, which went on for 3.5 months. Pictures 8 foot high, 44 pictures. I used it. You sent me that camera, the X1D, and I did some of the people who'd survived or been close to the bomb that went off for that girl was singing in Manchester, wherever that was. And so they came with all their children and everything like that, and a girl with a balloon and little children, people in wheelchairs. And I just did this whole series for 2 days. I said, yeah, they waited in line very patiently, and they'd come in and I'd say, oh, you look terrible. And they start laughing. I said, no, we're joking. And then once they start laughing, I said, no, I look terrible. You look great. And is this hello? Because I love children. I've got 5, maybe 6, and they're all grown up now. But no, I love children. I get on with them very well. And so it's a great joy. And as the same with Save the Children. I had a studio built it on the embankment and shot the things. And I just love doing real people as well. I like doing anything actually. Still life, beauty, fashion, portraits, landscape. I've done the CPRE, Council of Rural England, stopped the motorway going through the New Forest, and all the pictures and an exhibition at Hampton. Yeah, so the thing is, no, it's just everything through a camera is fascinating. I think that the thing is that what you're doing is taking out a section of time. So the camera really is a time machine. It gets that moment, the 23rd of August, 1990 or whatever, that day at that moment. It's an important, I mean, the cliche, picture takes 1,000 words, it does. Go for a steady Japanese restaurant, there's pictures of plastic food in the window.
So what's next to you, Clive? Have you got any big projects coming up, any books?
Go to Vietnam and then to go on to Japan to if Kanzo Yamamoto gets better, but he's doing a show all online and using a lot of those pictures that I just said. And then to go to Vietnam and shoot. And then I've got a fantastic singer to do, and Shingu, maybe a video and some portraits of her and a script I'm writing on now. We're going to present to her and see what we can come to. And she's amazing, some English, but a beautiful black girl, woman, amazing singer. And so that's in the pipeline. And then some other things, as I said, for my exhibitions and for my prints that I've got to start ordering from Genesis. They're back now. Keep on plugging them, don't I? Anyway, thank you so much to everybody at Hasselblad, to yourself and Hans and all the people who were there today. It's really kind of you.
Well, yeah, and thanks for joining us. And just on the screen, we just got a recap of where people can see more of your work and find you on social media.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you very much. It's been very entertaining.
I'm sorry about bright pink face. The Logitech didn't kick in. You look all suntanned and fabulous. I look like some old alcoholic. Take care. Look after yourself.
Okay, cheers, Clive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
So just to finish off quickly, it'd be much appreciated if you could help us with providing some feedback on a webinar feedback survey that should pop up as you quit the webinar. So if you're able to help with the feedback, it's very good to let us know how we're doing and what we could do in the future.
Well, I think you deserve 10 on everything. So what can I tell you? I would say 10 for everything, for your great work and for guiding me through my dyslexia with this, except for the Logitech where I look like a pink prawn.
I'll try and tweak it a bit on the recording, which will be on the Hasselblad YouTube channel.
Yeah, take some of the red out and put an 81A just slightly warmer, because I know it's hot in here because my friends who live next door have got 3 children and a dog, so I have to close the window. There's a wind machine on me at the moment, but it's boiling hot in here anyway. It's a lot. I'm hot. I was hoping for a grey overcast day. Anyway, but thank you so much to everybody, and thank you, Mark, for being such a prince. Take care.
Cheers, Clive. Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon. And then just to finish off, just to let you know about the Hasselblad website, obviously it's our go-to place for anything about Hasselblad, all our future webinars and events, obviously product information, information on our partner network, lots of inspirational stories on there, some including Clive, some history, including sort of Hasselblad's beginnings with Victor Hasselblad and NASA and all that. And obviously you can also request a demo and get support on any products.
Thank you so much. Great.
So thank you very much, and see you all again soon. Thank you.
Take care, Mark. Thank you so much to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.